Welcome to our animated book summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear. We will analyze all the main ideas of the book in this video. Today, we're exploring a masterpiece that isn't just about making small changes, but about unlocking a world of new potential. This book isn't merely a guide. It's a journey into understanding how the smallest habits, when aligned correctly, can lead to monumental shifts in our personal and professional lives. As you watch this video, you'll uncover the secrets to building habits that stick. We'll navigate through the fascinating realms of habit formation, where every action, no matter how small, compounds into significant results. You'll learn about the habit loop, a revolutionary concept that reveals the anatomy of a habit, breaking it down into 4 simple stages. This knowledge is more than just educational. It's transformational, offering you the tools to reshape your daily patterns. But it doesn't stop there. We'll delve into the powerful 4 laws of behavior change, a set of principles that can be applied to any habit you're looking to adopt or discard. You'll discover the art of habit stacking, a strategy that seamlessly integrates new habits into your existing routines. We'll explore how environment design can silently but effectively shape your habits, making your goals more attainable than ever. And for those moments when motivation seems scarce, we have insights that will change your perspective. You'll learn why sometimes creating a change in your environment is far more effective than trying to muster willpower. The influence of family, friends, and those around you in shaping your habits will be brought to light, providing a new lens through which to view your daily interactions. By the end of this video, you'll not only have a comprehensive understanding of this book's concepts, but also practical, actionable strategies that you can start implementing in your life right away. Whether you're looking to overhaul your lifestyle or make tiny tweaks for significant impact, this video is your first step on a path to a more disciplined, fulfilled, and successful life. So, are you ready to unlock the secrets to lasting change and see how the smallest habits can lead to the most significant transformations? Let's dive in. Before we dive into the first idea, if you are a visual learner, you have to check our app, Morfosis. We have animated book summary videos for the best self-development and business books. Click the link in the description to get a 7-day free trial and learn from hundreds of animated book summaries. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you get notified when we upload free videos. Idea 1. Habits and compound growth. The concept of habits and compound growth revolves around the idea that small changes consistently made over time can lead to dramatic results. At its core, this principle is about the power of accumulation. Imagine trying to push a giant snowball. At first, the progress might seem minimal as you gather a bit of snow here and there, but as you keep pushing, the snowball grows, collecting more snow faster and becoming larger. This snowball effect is a visual representation of how tiny habits, when repeated, can accumulate into significant outcomes. In the beginning, when we try to establish a new habit or make a change, the results might not be immediately noticeable. Let's say you decide to start reading for 10 minutes every day. The knowledge you gain from one day of reading might not seem significant. However, over a month, a year, or a decade, these minutes compound, and you'll have read hundreds of books. The knowledge and perspective you gain from that are massive. It's similar to how saving a small amount of money regularly might seem inconsequential in the short term. But thanks to the compound interest, over years, this amount can grow into a substantial sum. This principle encourages patience and persistence. The initial stages of change are often slow, and it might feel like you're not making any real progress. But just as a plant takes time to break through the soil, your efforts, repeated day in and day out, will eventually lead to visible and sometimes exponential results. It's a reminder that success doesn't always come from massive actions or radical changes. Often, it's the little habits, done consistently, that make the most significant difference over time. So, instead of getting discouraged if you don't see immediate results, Remember that each small effort is contributing to a much larger growth process, one that can lead to outcomes beyond what you might initially imagine. Idea 2. The habit loop. The habit loop is a fascinating concept that breaks down how our habits are formed and perpetuated. It revolves around 4 stages: cue, craving, response, and reward. These stages represent a cycle that our brains go through, often subconsciously, when developing or following a habit. Imagine walking into a dimly lit room. The moment you enter, the cue, you want to see better, the craving. So you reach out and flip the switch, the response, and the room fills with light, the reward. This simple, everyday action exemplifies the habit loop in action. The cue is what triggers the habit. It's like a spark that sets the whole process in motion. In our example, the dimly lit room is the cue. It could be anything: a location, a time of day, an emotional state, or even other people. Following the cue comes the craving. This is the feeling or desire that prompts you to act. It's not just about wanting the light on, it's about wanting to read comfortably, to not trip over something, or to feel safe. Next, you have the response. This is the actual behavior or action you take in response to your craving. It's the physical or mental activity you engage in, like flipping the switch. Finally, the reward is what you get at the end. It satisfies the craving and, importantly, reinforces the habit, making it more likely you'll repeat the cycle in the future. The room being illuminated and the subsequent comfort or safety you feel is the reward. Over time, as this cycle repeats, the habit becomes more ingrained, more automatic. You stop thinking about it, you just do it. The brain starts to recognize that specific cues will lead to certain rewards, and it begins to crave the action that brings about those rewards. This loop, once established, can be powerful. It's the reason why, after hearing your alarm, cue, you might feel a need for energy, craving, leading you to make coffee, response, which then wakes you up, reward. Understanding this loop is crucial if you want to build new habits or change existing ones. By identifying and adjusting the different stages, you can set up a system that works in your favor. For instance, by placing a book on your bedside table, making the cue obvious, you might feel the urge to read, craving, pick it up and read a few pages, response, and enjoy the content or feel of accomplishment, reward. Over time, reading before bed could become a natural habit. If you like the video so far, give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you get notified when we upload more animated book summaries. Also, leave a comment if you agree or disagree with the ideas of this book. We read all your comments. Thank you for your support. Now let's continue. Idea 3. The 4 laws of behavior change. The 4 laws of behavior change provide a framework to understand how habits are formed and give us tools to cultivate beneficial habits or alter unfavorable ones. Each law corresponds to one stage of the previously mentioned habit loop, offering actionable insights for each stage. The first law, make it obvious, deals with cues. If you want to form a new habit, you should make the cues for that habit clear and noticeable in your environment. For instance, if you want to start a daily journaling practice, leave a journal and a pen on your desk where you'll see it every day. On the flip side, if you're trying to cut down on snacking, don't leave tempting treats out on your kitchen counter. The idea is simple: what's out of sight is often out of mind, and what's visible becomes accessible. The second law, make it attractive, touches on the craving aspect of habits. The more appealing an activity is, the more likely you are to do it. This could involve pairing something you want to do with something you need to do. For example, if you love listening to certain podcasts but want to get into the habit of walking more, allow yourself to listen to your favorite podcast only when you're walking. This way, the thought of walking becomes more enticing. Moving on, make it easy emphasizes the response part of the habit loop. If you want to establish a habit, you need to make the action as easy as possible, especially when starting out. It's about reducing the barriers to make the habit straightforward. If you wish to start running in the mornings, for instance, laying out your running shoes and clothes the night before removes one more obstacle between you and your morning run. Lastly, make it satisfying focuses on the reward component. If a habit immediately rewards us, we're more inclined to repeat it in the future. This can be anything from the satisfaction of ticking off a task from a to-do list to treating yourself after a job well done. However, it's crucial that the reward reinforces the habit rather than undermines it. For example, if your habit goal is to eat healthily, rewarding yourself with a huge slice of cake might not be the best choice. By understanding and applying these 4 laws, one can effectively steer their behavior towards desired outcomes. Each law serves as a guidepost, helping mold actions and behaviors to better align with one's goals and aspirations. Idea 4. Habit stacking. Habit stacking is an approach to building new habits by cleverly piggybacking them onto habits you already do consistently. Think of it like adding a new song into a playlist you already love and listen to daily. Just as that song becomes part of your routine listen, the new habit becomes part of your daily routine. The basic premise is to take advantage of the habits and routines you already have in place. By doing so, it becomes easier to remember and practice the new habit. For example, let's say you have a daily ritual of making coffee every morning. If you want to cultivate the habit of daily meditation, you could decide to meditate for a few minutes every time you wait for your coffee to brew. Over time, brewing coffee becomes a cue, not just for enjoying a cup, but also for your meditation practice. The key to habit stacking is to choose the right pairings. It's essential to link habits that naturally fit together and make sense in the sequence they're performed. For example, after brushing your teeth at night, you might place your book on your pillow, signaling it's time for your nightly reading habit. Another crucial element is to start with a small habit, something that takes just a minute or two. This way, it doesn't feel like a big commitment or disruption to your existing routine. As you become accustomed to this new stacked habit, you can gradually extend the time if needed. Habit stacking works well because it taps into existing behaviors, making it easier to remember the new habit. Plus, by anchoring the new activity to something you do daily, the established routine provides a built-in reminder for the new habit. It's like getting a little nudge every time you engage in the existing habit, pushing you to also complete the new one. This method simplifies the process of incorporating new habits into our lives, making personal growth a more seamless journey. Idea 5. Environment design. Environment design revolves around the notion that our surroundings profoundly influence our actions. Instead of relying solely on willpower or motivation, adjusting our environment can make certain behaviors easier to adopt and others harder to engage in. By curating our surroundings, we can naturally guide our actions toward desired outcomes. Consider someone trying to eat healthily. If their pantry is filled with chips, cookies, and sugary snacks, resisting temptation becomes a daily battle. On the other hand, if they fill their kitchen with fruits, vegetables, and whole grains while keeping junk food out of sight, or better yet, out of the house, the easier choice becomes the healthier one. They've designed an environment where the default option aligns with their goals. Similarly, if someone wants to watch less TV, unplugging it after each use or placing the remote in a less accessible location can create a slight inconvenience, making it less appealing to mindlessly turn it on. On the flip side, if the goal is to play more guitar, placing the guitar on a stand in the living room rather than tucked away in its case makes it more inviting to pick up and play. The power of environment design lies in its ability to make desired actions effortless and undesired ones a bit more cumbersome. By carefully setting up our physical space, we can drive our actions in a specific direction without constantly having to make deliberate choices. The environment effectively does the choosing for us. This concept underscores the importance of being intentional about our surroundings. It's not just about the aesthetics, but about shaping a space that nudges us towards the habits and behaviors we want to adopt. By tweaking our environment, even in small ways, we set ourselves up for success by making the right actions feel like the natural things to do. Idea 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more emphasizes a shift in perspective when it comes to habit formation and personal growth. While many people lean on motivation as the primary force behind change, relying on it can be fickle. Motivation ebbs and flows. It's not always present when you need it, and it can be swayed by moods, circumstances, and external factors. Enter the role of the environment. The spaces and settings in which we operate have a tremendous, often underrated influence on our behaviors. Our surroundings can act as silent puppeteers, guiding our actions without us even realizing it. Think about it. If someone places a bowl of candy on your office desk, you might find yourself reaching for a piece now and then, not out of hunger, but simply because it's there. On the flip side, if a bowl of fruit sits on the kitchen counter, grabbing an apple becomes the default snack choice. Neither of these actions requires motivation. They're driven by the mere presence and convenience of options in the environment. Or consider a workspace filled with distractions, a buzzing phone, open social media tabs, and a cluttered desk. The chances of maintaining focus on a task decrease, not because of a lack of motivation, but because the environment promotes distraction. This idea suggests a fundamental shift. Instead of trying to muster endless willpower or waiting for the right mood to strike, we should prioritize crafting environments that naturally guide us toward desired behaviors. By tailoring our surroundings to align with our goals, we set up a stage where the right actions become not just easy but automatic. The environment, in essence, becomes a silent ally, nudging us in the right direction even when motivation might be low. Recognizing the power of the environment and harnessing it to our advantage underscores the idea that sometimes the stage on which we act plays a bigger role than our internal drive. It's a nudge towards proactively shaping our surroundings to serve our aspirations. Idea 7. The role of family and friends. The role of family and friends dives into the profound impact our social environment has on our habits and behaviors. People, by nature, are social creatures, and we're often influenced, subtly and overtly, by those around us. The behaviors, beliefs, and norms of our close-knit groups can shape our own habits, sometimes more than our personal convictions or resolutions. Imagine being in a group where everyone enjoys reading. Conversations might revolve around the latest books, and outings could involve trips to bookstores or libraries. In such a scenario, even if someone wasn't an avid reader to begin with, the chances of them picking up the habit increase. They might start reading to join in the conversations, or simply because being surrounded by readers makes it seem like a natural thing to do. On the flip side, if someone is trying to cultivate healthier eating habits but is constantly surrounded by friends or family who indulge in junk food and mock healthier choices, the journey becomes more challenging. The environment exerts a kind of peer pressure, making it harder to stick to the intended path. It's not just about shared activities, it's about shared beliefs and values. When surrounded by people who hold certain convictions, those beliefs often rub off on us, shaping our worldview and, by extension, our habits. This isn't to say that one should only surround themselves with people who mirror their desired habits or beliefs. However, it's essential to be aware of the influence our social circles wield. Recognizing this power means we can seek support when trying to establish a new habit or make a change. Sharing goals with friends or family, or even better, embarking on the journey together, can provide the motivation and accountability needed to stick with it. In essence, our social environment acts as an invisible force, nudging our behaviors and choices. By understanding its role, we can harness its power for positive change, or be mindful of its potential pitfalls. Idea 8. Implementation intentions. Implementation intentions refers to the practice of planning out when and where you'll perform a specific action. It's a strategy to bridge the gap between having an intention and actually executing it. While many of us might have aspirations or goals without a concrete plan, it's easy for these intentions to remain in the realm of thought and never translate into action. Take the example of someone who decides they want to start jogging. Simply having the desire to jog is a good start, but it's vague. There's no clarity on when it will happen or under what circumstances. However, if they decide, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 6:30 a.m., right after waking up, I'll jog around the park near my house. They've just set an implementation intention. They've determined not only what they're going to do, but also when and where they're going to do it. This strategy is effective because it eliminates ambiguity. By being specific about the circumstances under which an action will take place, the decision-making process is streamlined. There's less mental deliberation about, should I go for a jog now or later? Instead, the previously decided conditions act as a trigger, prompting action. Moreover, by repeatedly acting on these intentions in specific settings, over time, the environment itself starts acting as a cue. Using the jogging example, just waking up at 6:30 a.m. on those specific days, or even the sight of the park, could become a trigger to start jogging, even without conscious thought. Implementation intentions simplify the process of building new habits by making the how, when, and where clear. With the path clearly laid out, following through becomes less about mustering motivation in the moment and more about acting on a preset plan. It's a nudge towards turning vague aspirations into tangible actions, leveraging the power of specificity. Idea 9. The 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule is a practical strategy to tackle the inertia that often holds us back from starting a new habit. The core idea is straightforward. Scale down your habits to be achievable in just 2 minutes or less. The emphasis isn't on completing the entire task, but on simply starting it. When faced with a daunting task, the thought of dedicating a large chunk of time or effort can be off-putting. Procrastination often creeps in, not necessarily because the task is hard, but because initiating it feels overwhelming. For instance, someone wanting to cultivate a reading habit might feel daunted by the idea of reading for an hour each day. But breaking it down to the commitment of just read 1 page or read for just 2 minutes makes the task feel accessible and achievable. The goal is to make starting as frictionless as possible. What's interesting is that once you start, it's often easier to continue beyond the initial 2 minutes. Reading 1 page might lead to another, then another, and before you know it, you've read for 30 minutes. The hardest part is often just getting the ball rolling, and the rule aims to address that very hurdle. This approach works because it shifts the focus from the overwhelming entirety of the task to a tiny, manageable action. It sidesteps the mental resistance and the narrative of, I don't have enough time, or I'm not ready to dive deep into this yet. By consistently acting on the 2-minute version of the habit, over time, the act of starting becomes ingrained. The mini-habit acts as a gateway, often leading to the fuller, intended behavior. It's a subtle trick to overcome initial resistance and get into the rhythm of doing, emphasizing that the journey of 1,000 miles truly does begin with a single step. Idea 10. Habit tracking. Habit tracking is the practice of recording each time you perform a specific habit, creating a visual representation of your consistency. It's a way to make the abstract process of habit formation tangible and visible. Imagine you're trying to establish a daily meditation practice. Each day after you meditate, you mark that day on a calendar. Over time, you'll see a chain of marked days, growing longer with each successful session. This growing chain provides a sense of accomplishment and can serve as a motivation to continue. Nobody likes breaking a streak once they see it growing. One of the main reasons tracking works so well is that it offers immediate feedback. Instead of waiting for the long-term benefits of a habit to manifest, which can sometimes take a while, you get a quick, visual reward every time you track your habit. This sense of progress can be immensely satisfying. Moreover, by keeping a log, you become more accountable to yourself. There's something about seeing your successes and lapses in a concrete form that makes them more real. If you notice gaps or inconsistencies in your tracking, it can serve as a prompt to reflect on what went wrong and how you might address it. Additionally, tracking can help reinforce the identity you want to adopt. Every time you mark down that you've performed a habit, it's a small vote for the kind of person you wish to become. If you're tracking your workouts, every tick or mark is a reinforcement of the idea that you're someone who values fitness and works towards it. But it's also essential to approach tracking with a degree of flexibility and kindness. Missing a day or two doesn't mean failure. It's just a part of the journey. The key is not to let small lapses snowball into bigger breaks. Even if the streak is broken, the next step is to get back on track as soon as possible. In essence, habit tracking transforms the invisible process of habit formation into a visible path of progress. It's a tool that brings clarity, accountability, and motivation to the often murky journey of building lasting habits. Idea 11. Don't break the chain, but don't stress about it. Don't break the chain, but don't stress about it is all about consistency and self-compassion when building habits. It's about building momentum with your daily actions and feeling motivated by seeing your progress. Imagine you're marking off days on a calendar every time you do something good for yourself, like a workout or reading a chapter of a book. Over time, you'll see a chain of marked days, and it becomes a kind of game. You'll want to keep the chain going because it's a visual representation of your dedication. But here's the thing, life can throw curveballs. Maybe one day you're too sick to work out, or something urgent comes up. This principle reminds you that it's okay to miss a day occasionally. It's natural to want to keep up the streak, but if something happens and you miss a day, it doesn't mean all is lost. Instead of getting hung up on that one missed day and letting it derail your motivation, you acknowledge it and move forward. The key is not to let that one-off day become an excuse to stop entirely. It's a little like walking up a long flight of stairs. If you trip on one step, you wouldn't throw yourself all the way down, right? You'd get up and keep climbing. So while it feels great to see that unbroken chain, and it can be a powerful motivator, it's equally important to remember that building habits is a journey, not a destination. It's about the progress you make over time, not about being perfect every single day. And if a day gets skipped, no worries, just hop back on and keep going. It's the bigger picture that counts. Idea 12. The importance of identity. The importance of identity is a fascinating concept that digs deep into the core of how we see ourselves and how that view can shape our actions. When we talk about habits, it's not just about the actions we take, but also about who we believe we are. Imagine you're trying to become a person who exercises regularly. Instead of just telling yourself, "I need to work out," you start thinking, "I am someone who takes care of my body." See the difference? The first is a task on a to-do list, while the second is a statement about who you are. When we tie our habits to our identity, the actions become less about what we do and more about what they represent about us. It's a bit like wearing a new hat. If you believe you're someone who looks great in hats, you'll wear them with confidence. But if you think you're not a hat person, you might feel awkward and take it off at the first chance. So when you're building new habits, think about what kind of person would do that habit naturally. Want to read more? Instead of saying, "I have to read for 20 minutes, say, "I am a reader." It's a small shift in words, but it's powerful because it starts to embed the action into your very sense of self. And here's something neat. As you keep doing the habit, it reinforces that identity. The more you act like a reader, the more you'll believe you are one. Over time, it creates this feedback loop where your actions and identity support and strengthen each other. In essence, understanding and shaping our identity becomes a foundational step in building lasting habits. It's not just about the habits themselves, but about aligning them with who we want to be. And when our actions mirror our desired identity, it feels less like work and more like being true to ourselves. Idea 13. Immediate versus delayed rewards. Immediate versus delayed rewards is all about the tug of war between what feels good now and what's beneficial in the long run. It's like choosing between a chocolate bar or a salad. The chocolate might give you that instant hit of happiness, but the salad is better for your health in the long run. Our brains are wired to value immediate rewards. Think about it. Back when humans were hunters and gatherers, grabbing a quick meal when it was available was essential for survival. But today, this can sometimes work against us. That's why we might skip a workout to watch TV or eat junk food instead of something healthier. The pleasure of the moment often feels more compelling than a future benefit. This is where habits can get tricky. Many good habits, like exercising or saving money, have delayed rewards. You might not feel the benefits straight away. In contrast, bad habits often give us an instant gratification but can harm us over time. But all hope isn't lost. One way to navigate this is to attach immediate rewards to good habits. After a workout, maybe you allow yourself to relax with your favorite song. Over time, your brain starts associating the workout with that pleasant moment afterward, making the habit more appealing. Another approach is to make the immediate consequences of bad habits more visible. For instance, if you're trying to save money, seeing a dwindling bank balance can be a good reality check. Understanding this balance between immediate and delayed rewards gives us a better shot at building habits that serve us. It's like having a compass, guiding us in making choices that align with both our present happiness and future well-being. Idea 14. Habit contracts. Habit contracts taps into the power of accountability to make our intentions stick. It's kind of like when you promise a friend you'll join them for a morning run. Knowing they're waiting for you can be the push you need to get out of bed, even if it's cold outside. A habit contract is essentially a written agreement where you outline your commitment to a particular habit. This isn't just a mental note or a goal scribbled in a journal. By putting it down on paper, it feels more binding, almost like signing a formal contract for a job. What makes this concept even more impactful is when you involve someone else. It could be a friend, family member, or anyone you trust. You share your commitment with them, and they become a witness to your promise. This adds an external layer of responsibility. It's not just about letting yourself down anymore. It's about keeping your word to someone else. To make a habit contract effective, it's essential to be specific. For instance, instead of writing, "I will exercise more," you'd write, "I will go for a 30-minute walk every morning at 7 a.m. This clarity removes ambiguity and gives you a clear path to follow. Now, while the idea is to stick to the commitment, life can sometimes throw curveballs. So, it's okay to review and adjust the contract if needed. The main aim is to keep that sense of dedication alive and to have something tangible reminding you of the promise you made to yourself and someone else. Using habit contracts is a straightforward yet powerful way to give our intentions some extra weight. It's like having a friendly nudge, pushing us in the right direction when our motivation wavers. Idea 15. Reinventing and reviewing habits. Reinventing and reviewing habits is about understanding that our journey with habits isn't static. It's dynamic. Just like seasons change, our needs, goals, and circumstances can shift. So the habits that served us well at one point might not be as relevant or effective later on. Imagine you're a musician and you've built a habit of practicing the guitar for an hour every day. It's been great and you've seen a lot of progress. But now you're feeling drawn to songwriting. In this new phase, maybe it's more beneficial to split that hour into guitar practice and writing lyrics. This reinvention doesn't mean the initial habit was wrong. It just means it's time to adapt. It's about being flexible and responsive to where you are in life. It's acknowledging that as you grow and evolve, your habits should too. Reviewing habits periodically can offer clarity. Maybe you've been jogging every morning, but lately you find it monotonous. On reflection, you might realize that you're more excited about group dance classes. The core intention, staying fit, remains the same, but the approach changes. Reviewing isn't about being hard on oneself or getting upset about not sticking to a routine. It's a chance to check in, see what's working and what's not, and make adjustments. It's about keeping things fresh, aligned, and purposeful. So, while building habits is crucial, it's equally important to revisit them. Think of it like pruning a plant. Sometimes you need to trim a few leaves to help it grow better. Reinventing and reviewing habits ensure they remain meaningful, joyous, and effective as life unfolds. Idea 16. Habit Scorecard. A habit scorecard is a self-awareness tool that helps you become more conscious of your daily routines. It's like taking a snapshot of your day and mapping out what you routinely do. From the moment you wake up to the second you go to sleep, every little thing gets a spot on this scorecard. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, many of our actions throughout the day are automatic. They're things we've done so often, we hardly notice them. But these automatic actions shape a lot of our life. By creating a scorecard, you bring these habits into the light. You can see in plain view what you're doing with your day. But it's not just about listing habits. Next to each habit on the scorecard, you mark if it's a good habit, a bad one, or a neutral one. It's a simple categorization using symbols or signs that make sense to you. For example, A plus, sign next to habits you deem positive, for those you find negative, and an equal sign for neutral ones. Once you've mapped everything out, you can take a step back and see the bigger picture. Maybe you'll notice you've developed a habit of checking your phone too often, or perhaps you'll see that you've been consistent with your evening reading, which is great. The beauty of the habit scorecard is in its simplicity. It doesn't judge, it just presents facts. It gives you a clear view of where you stand, helping you decide where to go next. If there's a negative habit you want to change, now you're more aware of it. If there's a good habit you want to strengthen, you can take steps to do so. In essence, the habit scorecard is like a mirror, reflecting your daily routines. With this newfound awareness, you're better equipped to shape your habits, and by extension, your life. Idea 17. Pointing and calling. Pointing and calling is a fascinating technique that originated in Japan, particularly among train conductors. It's a method that involves physically pointing at an object or direction and then vocalizing an action or observation. It might seem odd at first, but this simple action can significantly reduce mistakes. Imagine you're about to leave your house. As you check the stove, you point to each burner and verbally confirm it's off. By doing this, you're not just glancing and assuming, you're actively engaging multiple senses. By pointing and calling out, you're reinforcing your observation, making it harder to overlook something or make an error. So, why does this work? Combining both movement, pointing, and auditory confirmation, calling out, engages the brain more actively. It's a bit like double-checking, but with an added physical component. This makes the observation more deliberate and the memory of doing it more vivid. This method isn't just for train conductors or safety checks. It can be adapted to various scenarios where precision is essential or where you're trying to build a new habit. For example, if you're trying to drink more water, every time you take a sip, you could point to the glass and say, "I'm drinking water." It might feel silly, but the act of pointing and vocalizing can reinforce the behavior and make it more memorable. By integrating pointing and calling into certain areas of your life, you add an extra layer of mindfulness and attention to your actions. It's a simple yet powerful way to reduce errors and bring more awareness to what you're doing. Idea 18. Habit shaping. Habit shaping is all about breaking down a larger, perhaps more complex habit into smaller, more manageable steps. Think of it like trying to climb a mountain. Instead of trying to reach the summit in one go, you set up multiple camps along the way. Each camp is a smaller milestone, and reaching one gives you the confidence to move on to the next. When we talk about shaping a habit, the key is to start simple. Let's take the example of wanting to start a daily jogging habit. Instead of telling yourself to run 5 miles on day 1, you begin with something small, like just putting on your running shoes. That's it. No pressure to do more than that. Once that becomes a routine, you gradually increase the challenge. Now you step outside. Then, perhaps walk around the block. Bit by bit, you're shaping the habit, making it part of your daily routine without the overwhelm. This approach works because it doesn't rely on massive willpower or motivation. By focusing on tiny actions that lead to the bigger habit, you reduce the resistance. It feels doable, not daunting. Over time, as these tiny actions accumulate, they build momentum. What started as just wearing your shoes becomes a 5-mile run. The beauty of habit shaping is that it respects the journey. It acknowledges that building solid, lasting habits isn't an overnight task, but rather a gradual process of small, consistent steps. Idea 19. Inversion of the 4 laws. Inversion is a fancy term that simply means flipping something around. So when we talk about the inversion of the 4 laws, we're looking at the opposite of the positive behaviors that help form good habits. The goal with this concept is to understand how we can avoid or break bad habits by seeing the opposite side of habit formation. So the 4 laws to build a good habit are making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy, and making it satisfying. Let's flip each one. 1. Making it obvious becomes making it invisible. To avoid or break a bad habit, you'd want to remove the cues that trigger it. For example, if you're trying to cut down on junk food, don't keep it in plain sight. Instead, keep healthier snacks front and center. By making the cues for your bad habits less visible, you reduce the chances of triggering them. 2. Making it attractive turns into making it unattractive. Find ways to remind yourself of the negative consequences of a bad habit. For instance, if you're trying to quit smoking, consider the health benefits you're missing out on or the cost associated with buying cigarettes. Highlighting the downsides makes the habit less appealing. 3. Making it easy flips to making it difficult. Add extra steps to make starting a bad habit more challenging. A classic example would be if you're spending too much time watching TV, unplug it after each use. The extra effort of having to plug it in might give you pause the next time you think about turning it on. 4. Making it satisfying becomes making it unsatisfying. Introduce some form of immediate negative feedback for indulging in a bad habit. Maybe it's a swear jar concept where you have to put in money every time you do something you're trying to avoid. Feeling an instant sting can deter you from repeating the habit. By flipping the 4 laws and applying their opposites, you have a toolkit for steering clear of behaviors you want to avoid. It's like having a roadmap for both building the habits you want and sidestepping the ones you don't. Idea 20. The Goldilocks Rule. The Goldilocks Rule is a concept that draws inspiration from the children's story, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. In the story, Goldilocks is searching for something that's just right. Not too much of this, or too little of that. Translating this idea to habits, the Goldilocks Rule suggests that for a task or action to become a habit, it should hit a sweet spot of difficulty. If a task is too easy, it might become boring. If it's too hard, it can feel overwhelming, leading to frustration. However, if it's just right in its level of challenge, it can keep us engaged and motivated. The main insight here is that optimal motivation occurs when we face challenges that are right on the edge of our current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just a step beyond our comfort zone. Engaging in such tasks provides a sense of accomplishment as they are challenging enough to keep us interested, but not so challenging that they demotivate us. For instance, if you're trying to cultivate a reading habit, and you're not used to reading regularly, starting with a 500-page dense book might be too daunting. On the flip side, reading a short children's book might not feel fulfilling, but picking up a novella or a shorter adult fiction book might be just right to get you started. This balance is crucial for sustained growth and maintaining interest in any activity. It's about setting challenges that are doable, but still push the boundaries of what you're currently capable of, ensuring that you're continually growing without getting disheartened. Idea 21. The Dedo Effect. The Dedo Effect is named after the French philosopher Denis Diderot, who experienced a sequence of events leading him to spend more than he intended. The story goes that Diderot was gifted a beautiful scarlet robe, and suddenly the rest of his possessions felt inferior in comparison. This new robe made his old furnishings, decorations, and clothing seem out of place. So he began upgrading various items around his home, plunging him into debt. The Dedo Effect refers to the idea that obtaining a new possession often creates a spiral of consumption that leads to additional purchases. It's the feeling that when you get something new, the other things around it seem outdated or not good enough anymore, compelling you to upgrade those as well. In the context of habits, it points to the power of surrounding environment on our behavior. One change, one new item or habit can lead to another, which can then lead to another. It's a domino effect. For instance, if someone starts wearing nicer clothes, they might feel the need to upgrade their shoes to match. Or, if you get a new desk for your office, you might feel the urge to buy new stationery or a chair. But this isn't just about consumption. It can also be harnessed in positive ways. For example, deciding to wake up early can lead to a morning exercise routine. That exercise can make you more conscious of your diet, and suddenly you're eating healthier. The key is recognizing this effect and using it to our advantage, steering it towards positive changes and being wary of unnecessary consumption. Idea 22. Mastery and plateaus. Mastery is often misunderstood. When we think about someone mastering a skill, we often imagine a straight upward path of progress. In reality, achieving mastery in any field usually involves facing a lot of plateaus along the way. Imagine you're learning to play the guitar. At first, every day feels like a huge leap forward. You learn new chords, new songs, and you can clearly hear your progress. But after a while, you might hit a point where even though you're practicing regularly, it doesn't seem like you're getting any better. That's a plateau. Plateaus can be frustrating. It's like running on a treadmill. You're putting in the effort, but you're not moving forward. But here's something to remember. Just because you're not making visible progress doesn't mean you're not improving. Sometimes the work you're doing is internal, subtle, or not immediately obvious. In the realm of habits, it's common to see a burst of progress when you first adopt a new habit. But then the novelty wears off, and it might feel like you're stuck. This is the plateau phase, and it's a test of persistence. However, these plateaus are actually crucial. They allow you to consolidate your skills, to really anchor what you've learned. They might not be exciting, but they're setting the foundation for the next leap in progress. So, when you find yourself on a plateau, whether in learning a new skill or building a habit, it's essential not to get discouraged. Stick with it, keep practicing, and know that with time and persistence, you'll eventually break through to the next level. The journey to mastery isn't about constant, visible progress. It's about dedication, consistency, and understanding that plateaus are just a part of the process. Idea 23. The downside of creating good habits. While it might sound surprising, there's a downside to forming good habits. When we adopt habits, they allow us to operate on autopilot. We don't have to think about each step, we just do them instinctively. This is great for efficiency, but it can sometimes lead to complacency. Let's take the example of driving. When you first learned, every action was deliberate. You were keenly aware of every movement, from checking the mirrors to changing the gears. But as driving became a habit, it's easy to find yourself at your destination without recalling the specifics of the journey. This automatic mode is efficient, but it can sometimes mean we're not as alert as we should be, leading to potential errors or oversights. Similarly, when a positive behavior becomes habitual, you might start to overlook the nuances or stop trying to improve. For instance, if you've developed the habit of jogging every morning, you might always take the same route at the same pace, never pushing yourself to go further or faster. This automaticity is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it means that the behavior has become embedded, making it easier to stick to. But on the other hand, it can mean you're no longer critically engaged with the action, leading to stagnation or even backsliding. Another potential downside is that habits, even good ones, can become rigid. If you're so used to a particular routine, it can become challenging to adapt when circumstances change. You might become resistant to trying a different approach, even if it's better, just because it's different from what you're used to. So, while forming good habits is generally a positive move, it's essential to remain mindful. Periodically, take a step back, evaluate, and see if there's room for improvement or if it's time to shake things up a bit. It's all about striking a balance between consistency and adaptability. If you like this video, make sure to check our app, Morfosis. It has hundreds of videos like this one, and you can watch it with the 7-day free trial offer we have. Just click the button in the description and start learning today. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you get notified when we upload free videos.